During a single battle, several men were killed. Boone buried them quietly beneath a tree, marked only with stones. He would later reflect by saying, "We proceeded on from this event with caution, but the woods seemed to mourn with us."
Sometimes life can feel pretty disorienting, as if we find ourselves turned around in the woods. But never fear, because we are never truly lost. And with the help of the wilderness, along with footsteps from the past and the present, we will unlock the tools that will help us to rewrite our journey here on the Project Mindfully Outdoors podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Project Mindfully Outdoors, the podcast. And today, on this episode, we're going to continue our mindful expedition into the life and times of Daniel Boone. Last week, we did a nice overview, and we got to meet a young man chasing isolation and purpose through the forest of Pennsylvania and the mountains of the Carolinas. Now, on this episode, we find him standing at the edge of the unknown, looking to the west, looking in to Kentucky, a land that's just as wild as it is beautiful, and filled with both promise and parallel. This is the story of the Wilderness Trail. And it's not just a tale of geography. It's a tale of faith, courage, and awareness. By the spring of 1775, old D. Boone was hired by the Transylvania Company to lead a team of woodsmen to open a path through the Cumberland Gap, a pass through the Appalachian Mountains that up to that point, only few had really taken the time to explore, let alone go across. What he created would become one of the most important routes of early American. A trail that carved out and helped along 200,000 settlers as they moved westward into Kentucky. And the cool thing about it is the fact that it's still there today. It's been repurposed and rehabilitated, but it's still a place that you can visit. In fact, it was one of the first sites that I stepped foot on during my quest to rediscover myself and explore the places that Boone has been. But this journey to make it there wasn't easy. It was one that took grit, instinct, and mindfulness that was born out of necessity. The forest wasn't just a setting. In fact, it was alive, whispering, warning, and testing every decision that was made. Boone and his men faced thick undergrowth, swollen rivers, and a constant sense of danger, with attacks lurking around every bend. That's why they called the route the Wilderness Road. Each mile that they cut was paid for in sweat and sometimes in blood. During one skirmish, several men were killed, and Boone buried them quietly beneath the trees, marked only with a simple stone. He wrote later, "We proceeded on with caution, but the woods seemed to mourn our losses with us." There's something deeply mindful within that statement, and it's the awareness of grief within nature. Boone didn't rush forward to forget. Instead, he paused. He observed. He honored the moment. In a world where we often try to push past the pain, Boone teaches us presence means feeling everything. It means feeling the loss as well as the beauty, all in one. It would take days until the men finally reached the Kentucky River. And there Boone began building a small fort that would become Fort Boonesboro. It would become one of the first English-speaking settlements west of the Appalachians. The land around him, it was vast. It was untamed. He was forging not just a road, but a whole new way of being, bridging the gap between civilization and wilderness. And yet, Boone never saw the frontier as something to simply conquer. He saw it as something to coexist with. And that mindset is key. A mindfulness that was born out of respect. He once said that nature was his schoolmate. How often do we allow nature to be our teacher, to show us patience, acceptability, accountability, and even humility? Before we get too deep into Boone's journey, I want to take a second to put a quick word in for our partners at My Medic and also my friends at Mountain House Foods. Frontier Life was something that tested every ounce of Boone's readiness, much like today's backcountry adventures test our own. And that's why no matter what pack I'm carrying, I've always got a My Medic first aid kit strapped to it. Because the My Medic kits are built for the unexpected. They're designed for the real outdoors professional. Because when adventure calls, preparation is what keeps you safe. So visit mymedic.com and use our promo code, Project Outdoors 15, to save yourself 15% on your entire order. And for those long, hard days on the trail, Mountain House meals are my go-to fuel. They're lightweight, they're delicious, they're ready in minutes. Whether it's your next camp out or an extended excursion, they got you covered. Just hit the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to Kentucky. Imagine, here we are, standing back in 1775. The night after the trail was finally cleared. Boone sitting there next to the fire. He would have to be exhausted. His clothes torn and ravished, with his rifle by his side. But the sense of awareness, the sense of the present moment, as he stared up above him at a sky that was so full of stars, it felt as if the universe was breathing right along with him. He's done something extraordinary, opening a way for others to follow. But with that comes a certain sense of weight, responsibility, uncertainty, and sacrifice. As I sit under the stars by myself here tonight, I think of that exact same feeling of carrying something much larger than myself. Maybe it's a dream, maybe it's a family, or maybe it's just a simple calling. But it's a sense of mind that we all can relate to. That trail Boone cut wasn't just through the wilderness. If you take the moment and really think about it from a deep perspective, it was a trail that was cut through fear, which is definitely something that we all can connect with and understand. When the road ahead feels dark or it's unmarked, simply remember this: every path begins with one step, and it only requires courage to make that step. For the settlers who followed Boone along the wilderness road, it offered them the same promise, the same test. Families would walk hundreds of miles through mud while being hungry and facing danger, simply because they were chasing a vision of freedom with opportunity. Some made it, and unfortunately, some did not. But the trail itself became a living symbol of perseverance. Boone led not from a place of power, but he led from a place of presence. He didn't order his men forward. He picked up an axe and he walked beside them. He noticed the way the wind would blow, the way the trees bent before a storm. He read the land like it was a script. And that's mindfulness in motion. Awareness guiding action. Boone's road would go on, and it would shape a nation. But the cost was paid with a great toll. There was conflict with Native American tribes, and each time that they combated, they would become more intense. And Boone's own life would soon be marked by trial and loss. And we'll explore that next week as we reconvene to walk the frontier. But before we get out of here, and as we close this journey today, let's pause right here and just breathe. Close your eyes if you can. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest at sunrise. You can see the faint outline of a path, one you've never walked before. The air is cold. The birds have just begun to sing. You don't know where that trail leads, but something deep inside of you is whispering one word. It's whispering, go. Breathe in deep. Acknowledge the fear. Breathe out slowly and build a sense of trust within yourself. That's the same breath that it took old DB when he began to step into the unknown. It's the same breath you can take whenever you stand in front of change. The wilderness, after all, isn't just out there. It's within us. Thank you for joining me on this edition of Project Mindfully Outdoors. You know, it's really been enjoyable to put this together, and I'm really glad that you're enjoying the journey that we're taking together into the frontier. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure that you like and subscribe to the podcast. Share it with a friend, because I'm sure they'll get the same insight into mindfulness and the wilderness around them, as well as inside them, that you do. And just to foreshadow a little bit, episode 3 is going to be very fun, because we're going to look at how Boone faces his captors, diving deeper into isolation, and how the transformation deep within really unlocked the man that he would become. So until next time, get out there in the wilderness, my friend, because that's where the stillness and the adventure lies. I'll see you at projectmindfully-outdoors.co.
Thank you for listening to the Project Mindfully Outdoors podcast. Please remember to subscribe to the show. and visit www.projectmindfuloutdoors.co for more.